The first tuft emerged not from his scalp, but from inside his own ear canal. It was coarse, wiry, and it grew impossibly fast. Within hours, a dense, dark patch had formed, sprouting in a direction hair should never grow. Then came the smell. A sharp, musky odor of wet earth and something metallic, like old pennies, clung to him no matter how he scrubbed. His skin began to prickle and tighten across his jaw and neck, a strange, crawling sensation, as if something was moving just beneath the surface. Whispers started in the quiet of the night, not voices from outside, but a faint, papery rustling that seemed to originate from within his own skull. The reflection in the mirror held his face, but the eyes that stared back were slowly losing their familiar light, clouding with a feral, watchful awareness. This wasn't an illness, it was a transformation. His body was no longer his own. It was becoming a vessel, and something else was moving in. A medical x-ray reveals a jawbone, grotesquely overgrown and contorted, its structure warped beyond recognition. Then, a pair of terrified human eyes peer out from within a dense thicket of matted hair, glistening with primal fear. A sharp, pained gasp cuts through the oppressive silence, carrying the scent of stale ozone and decay. This isn't a legend. This isn't a movie. This is the story of a man whose own DNA betrayed him. A real-life medical mystery so rare, so bizarre they call it. Werewolf Syndrome. Meet Daniel. From a small Ohio town, Daniel was just an ordinary boy. Baseball games, a booming laugh, dreams of fixing engines. For 12 years, his life followed a predictable, sunlit path. Then, adolescence arrived. And with it, everything changed. And with it, something else. It began with subtle, unsettling changes. While other boys developed faint wisps, Daniel's growth was thick, dark, and unnervingly rapid. The air in his room grew heavy with the faint, metallic scent of ozone. Daniel's eyebrows thickened unnaturally, merging into a single dark line across his brow. A fine, downy pelt began to emerge across his shoulders and back, soft yet unsettling to the touch. His parents dismissed it as a harmless family trait, joking about his grandfather's blessed genes. But Daniel felt a deep, primal dread take root, a certainty that this was no ordinary inheritance. This wasn't normal teenage development. By his senior year, Daniel was shaving twice daily. The hair wasn't confined to typical places. It was an insidious invasion. It crept across his forehead like creeping moss, descended his neck in coarse trails, and even colonized the tops of his hands. Each morning brought new territory, as if something beneath his skin was mapping its claim. The whispers began first, cruel and taunting, branding him, Wolfman, and ape. Daniel, once the vibrant life of every party, started to vanish into himself. He became a recluse, sealed in his room, the air thick with the stale scent of fear and neglect. Skipping his own graduation, he was consumed by one gnawing, terrifying question. What was happening to him? Medical specialists were utterly confounded. Endocrinologists found his hormone levels perfectly normal, a dead end in the sterile, ozone-scented air of the lab. Dermatologists prescribed increasingly potent creams that offered no relief, their chemical smell lingering on his skin. Some whispered it was psychological, a profound and terrifying form of body dysmorphia, a prison of the mind. But Daniel and his family knew this was real. This was physical. They were facing a medical ghost, a condition so rare most doctors had only read about it in textbooks. Hypertrichosis. Universally known as werewolf syndrome, hypertrichosis isn't about being hairy. It's a catastrophic failure of the genetic code. In the womb, our bodies are covered in lanugo, a fine, fetal hair that usually sheds before birth. In Daniel's case, a tiny genetic switch never flipped off. That silent biological error condemned him from his very first breath. His lanugo didn't just remain thickened, transforming into coarse, terminal hair, as if his body was trapped in a primitive stage of human development. In a stark doctor's office, Daniel, now in his 20s, sits under the sterile light as the physician studies his file with a mix of pity and scientific fascination. The doctor's voice, detached and clinical, cuts through the heavy air of the examination room. Daniel, the condition is progressive. The hair follicles remain in a permanent anagen phase, with no known cure, only brutal management. Management meant hours of agony. Electrolysis and laser treatments became his grim routine. Each session was a searing battle against his own flesh, leaving the scent of ozone and burnt keratin. The pain lingered, a deep, cellular memory of fire etched into every follicle. Each removal left his skin red and raw, yet the hair returned more stubborn and coarse than before. But the psychological toll cut deeper than any razor. He felt every stare in the grocery store's fluorescent glare, every whispered judgment hanging in the air like a damp chill. The pointing fingers of children became tiny, sharp daggers of humiliation. Daniel's world shrunk to the photograph in his trembling hands, a ghost of the boy he could never be again. The metallic scent of the auto shop still clung to him, a phantom reminder of the life slipping through his fingers. A hollow, gnawing dread settled in his chest, colder and heavier than any engine block he'd ever lifted. The darkness wasn't just around him anymore. It was a thick, suffocating presence growing from within. His girlfriend left, saying she couldn't handle the attention. The funny, kind Ohio boy was now completely imprisoned by a cage of his own hair. Then, a glimmer of hope. A research clinic in London was trialing an experimental drug, a targeted therapy designed to essentially put overactive hair follicles to sleep. The treatment was brutal, a clinical brutality that left an iron scent hanging in the air. It was a 1 in a million chance, a desperate roll of cosmic dice. For Daniel, it was the only chance. His face a mask of grim resolve, he boarded the plane, the coarse fabric of his hoodie brushing his neck. A toxic cocktail of powerful drugs delivered brutal side effects, relentless nausea, bone-deep fatigue, and searing joint pain. Yet Daniel endured, his body becoming a battleground of agony. For 6 long months, he existed as a phantom in a London flat, a foreign city's forgotten resident. There, surrounded by the stale scent of damp plaster and silence, he waited for a miracle that refused to come. Daniel received the injection. Then, day after day, he checked the mirror. Then, something changed. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and decay. His breath hitched as a trembling hand rose to his cheek. He pulled gently, and a small clump of hair slid free in his fingers, not torn, but surrendered, as if it had already died. He stared, disbelief knotting in his throat, then dragged his palm over his forearm. More strands shed silently, leaving behind blotches of pale, flawless flesh that felt cold and alien to the touch. A metallic scent hung in the air as the host's voice cut through the stillness. It was working. The genetic siege was finally lifting. For the first time in 15 years, Daniel saw his own flesh. The air smelled of ozone and iron, a metallic tang of release. He wept, not from agony, but from a profound, shuddering relief. The creature was withdrawing, fading into the gloom. Daniel eventually made his way back to Ohio. He is not cured, and he never will be. Something came back with him, something that lingers just beneath the skin. He still requires constant maintenance therapy, a reminder that the nightmare is never truly over. But the thick, pelt-like hair that once covered him is gone, leaving only pale, scarred skin in its wake. He can walk down the street now, though every step carries the metallic scent of ozone from the therapy machines. He even got a job, but the damp chill of the laboratory still clings to his clothes, a phantom touch he can't escape. He's piecing together a life, brick by broken brick. But here's the unnerving truth, the real haunting in this tale. Daniel confessed the hardest adjustment wasn't the hair sprouting from his skin, it was relearning how to be ordinary. For years, that hair was my entire identity. It served as both my shield and my personal prison. But now, when I look in the mirror, I don't recognize the reflection staring back. The face I see is a complete stranger, a man in his 30s, his youth a void he never inhabited. Sometimes, in dreams, I'm still covered in that lost time. And in those strange dreams, I feel a profound, unsettling safety, a sense of being known. His body spent decades trying to turn him into a myth, and in doing so, it erased the person he was meant to become. The treatment preserved his physical form, but condemned his consciousness to a desolate, alien limbo. Who remains, stripped of the affliction that forged his entire identity? The screen holds a childhood photo of Daniel, before it begins a slow, unsettling metamorphosis into the man he is now. The two faces were irreconcilable, fractured by a lifetime of trauma. So what is the greater tragedy? The disease that contorts your body into a spectacle? Or the cure that leaves you a stranger to your own reflection? Daniel's struggle wasn't against the hair. It was a fight for an identity stolen not once, but twice. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and decay, as if the very room mourned what had been taken. Hypertrichosis, the medical name for excessive hair growth, has been documented in fewer than 100 individuals throughout all of recorded human history. The condition is so vanishingly rare, its victims were once displayed as circus freaks, living their lives as medical curiosities. But behind the spectacle lies a profound and unsettling biological mystery, an anomaly that whispers of something ancient and primal, dormant in our very genes.